Three corporations own it all, and now they're coming for your home. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. My name is David Quintieri, and I'm the Money GPS. I've been doing this longer than pretty much everybody. What I do is take the complicated and make it simple. In today's video, I'm going to show you how people think that they're funding their retirement, that people think they're investing, and they are only digging themselves deeper into a hole. We are going to look at an article. It's going to have some quotes from RFK Jr., Vivek, and all this. But let's not get political. I want to take the data from it, what we can learn, and then I'll move on to the next aspects. There are three giant corporations, Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard, which collectively own each other. So it's really one giant corporation, but they also own 89% of the S&P 500. They own everything. And now they've decided to buy every single family home in America. So if they stay on the current trajectory, they will own 60% of the homes in this country, single family homes. By 2030, they're literally trying to buy everything. That, in fact, is true. They are trying to actively buy all of it. Now, why? They want this as part of a grand scheme. But if you just look at it in the sort of, surface level, they are being funded by individuals trying to get into these index funds. Index funds. Jack Bogle himself, the guy who created the index fund, he warned about the level of concentration inside of an index fund, and that was so many years ago. He talked about this, and of course that is problematic when you have such concentration. We know that to be the case. And now we have it going even further with single family homes, because it's not these big, huge multi-family properties. They have 300, 500, 1,000 units. No, not at all. It's the single family homes. That's when things start to get real strange. All right. The same thing, basically, Vivek said, Blackrock, State Street, Vanguard represent arguably the most powerful cartel in human history. They're the largest shareholders of nearly every major public company, even of each other. It's wild how that is, but this is what we have to deal with today. And what are insiders doing through this period? Well, look, Jeff Bezos to sell $5 billion in Amazon shares. Could he be raising cash for his Seattle Seahawks purchase? We'll see what happens with that. But the point is that he sold a very large amount, like even for the amount of wealth that he has still sold a lot of Amazon shares over the last while. In fact, since he stepped down from his position at Amazon, he kept selling and selling and selling billions and billions. So he had agreed to before $1 billion per year, and then he was going to put that into his spaceship company, Blue Origin. But he has gone way above that in recent years. Who else? What about Leather Jacket Man? NVIDIA CEO cashes in on rally with a $169 million share sale. It's the most he's netted in a month thanks to the stock surge. Of course, the stock has been going straight up, and he has been profiting ever since. Who makes the most money out of a stock going up? It's the insiders, right? People feel they're making good cash. It's nothing compared to these guys. Now, I must note, compared to his total net worth, the amount that he has sold is not much, but it is wild to see this many, being sold at this time. And you could see, look at where it's been just in 2024. We are going to talk about this as of the time you're watching this video. We've already discussed it with my Finance Friday crew. So shout outs to the Finance Friday. This right here, you're seeing it going all the way to $120 billion of net worth, coming down ever since, just like the stock. Obviously, his net worth is based largely around that. But in 1 year, tripling. That's really unheard of. Goldman and Citi predict more gains for NVIDIA supplier Hynix after 90% rally. This is something I will cover in depth with the Finance Friday crew, but just understand that it's not just NVIDIA that are some of these companies that are going to do really well off this whole AI thing. There are going to be a lot of others out there. That's something I cover every Friday. And who else is poised to do very well? That's right, Nancy Pelosi disclosed stock market trades made by her husband. He loaded up on AI plays like NVIDIA, but he sold Tesla. And you know that Pelosi's been kind of accurate. I think her salary is something like $120,000, $160,000, something around there at the most it's ever been. And yet her net worth is like, 120 million or whatever it is. So she's a pretty good trader. So this is what's happening, right? So you're seeing like who is getting the money and who's cashing out and who's ultimately taking it. Because if you own those shares, it doesn't really do you any good, right? Unless you own something that you want, that brings you something. Maybe it's real estate, maybe it's the house you live in, maybe it's some sort of, land that you have, maybe it's whatever. It could be a fancy car, it could be anything. But owning the shares doesn't necessarily net you anything. And so it's when you cash out and you put that into something that you want, well, that's when you get to reap the rewards. That's what they're doing now with NVIDIA. That's what Nancy Pelosi is doing as the insider trading. And that brings us to you, the average individual. Job situation is very unclear today. This is something I thought was interesting. Growing number of unemployables frustrated by the job market. Rising number of experienced and competent professionals are finding it difficult to re-enter after they've been let go or they quit. A lot of people in the circumstance that I've seen right now. Employers are receiving thousands of applications and relying on AI to sift and select the candidates, making for a frustrating experience. What's happening? Think about that. 1,000 people are in that same position as you trying to find a job. 1,000 people. And of course, the competition is super fierce right now. At a time, by the way, we're being told that the jobs market's fantastic and so on. We know that it's not. But this tells you something that things have really, really changed over the last few years. The economy not doing so well. Why? I'll get into that in just a second. More about jobs. Just wanted to note this. The jiggle is up. Bosses bust workers who fake computer activity. Companies' productivity tracking tools are getting more sophisticated in detecting when remote workers are pretending to be busy. So this is what's going to allow them to basically get rid of those people. There's always, in any company, there's 10% at the bottom, which are not doing any work. All the coworkers are always upset about that person. He shows up late, he calls in sick, he's not pulling his weight. Those 10% of people can be weeded out, and they're certainly trying to do so, and they can get a productive worker in their position. So things are like, if you think you could just coast right through, for a lot of businesses, not going to fly anymore, because if we're not replaced by a person who's actually hardworking, we're going to get replaced by AI and automation robotics. Okay, and be mindful of that. This leads me into, why is this all happening? You print money, you're giving it essentially to who? You print money, devalue the dollars, and it's going to the Blackrocks, the Vanguards, and the State Streets. That's what we see. That's not a coincidence. It's going ultimately into the hands of the few at the expense of the many. Now, there are different levels to that. We're going to see that there are those in the shadows who, shall not be named. And then we come lower than that and we get to, the richest among those, the billionaires, the Bezoses and everybody. And then we come to the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. There's different levels to it. Okay, people want to point their fingers, but it depends on the level. It depends on the audience as well. But understand who's doing all of this, making it all possible. It is the central banks and their activities. So what's next, you may ask? Well, Canadians now have the third highest household debt in the world. It is a matter of fact that as the costs rise, you feel the burden. And this is about Canada, but you can compare it into the other countries. It's absurd. And of course, I feel for those of my friends in Australia as well. Looking at all of this, you can see it's incredible as a percentage of the GDP. I mean, being over household and non-profit debt, like over 100% of the GDP, you can't walk that back. You have this real income has fallen for all Canadians except those in the top quintile. So over these last few years, since 2020, this is the data I've been telling you over and over and over again. Here is the actual data. And it's not a surprise that since 2020, the vast majority of people, except the people at the absolute top, well, everybody is now worse off. And what is the difference? Like, what has changed? They pumped in more money. They pump in the money, you get the short end of the stick. Oh, no, it doesn't work like that. Printing money doesn't cause inflation. You don't know what you're talking about. It's sad. It's sad to see those lies being spread in the so-called financial YouTube world. Household spending growth is driven by core needs. And certainly we are seeing people struggling more now than ever. Even dollar stores can't stay open. There is a problem. So what can you, the individual, do? You've got to upskill. You've got to be able to take what you have and multiply. If you are trying to make money in the stock market, trying to find the next hot trade, you've got to spend hours every day on that. Or you can put your money into something that's a little bit more, let's say, reasonable for people that don't need to watch the markets every day. That's up to you. What I have done is that I've built a business, not the Money GPS. I don't even think this counts as a business anymore. What I have done is I have built an online business that you could find out more about on my the link in the top of the description. But that's what I have done, and that's what I teach people to do, because I think that's the best thing possible. For a lot of people, they are just unsure. They're uncertain. Well, guess what? I didn't know anything at the beginning, and I'm looking online. I'm getting all these gurus and all this garbage, quite frankly. And so I didn't know the answers, but I kept falling forward, essentially. Screwing up, making those mistakes, and I still make them today. And I'm asking, hey, do you know? And getting bad advice, getting some good advice, and just putting that all together and then giving it to the people in my group. So I want to thank you for being here. If you want to get more information, there's a link at the top of the description. You can get on the lives. That's where I give the best details. Next thing is, supposedly I'm going to be interviewing Andrew Henderson of Nomad Capitalist. We'll see if that goes through. And also, just keep an eye on what's going on out there. I think there's going to be some major changes for a lot of people. I just highlight on Canada just because it's so much worse off than it was a few years ago. I wouldn't worry too much about politicians. I wouldn't worry too much about a lot of nonsense that's going on. Focus on you. Focus on your family, and just understand that you can't get anywhere by doing the same things you've been doing over the last few years. You're digging yourself deeper. You got to get out of that. The elites, no matter which level you're referring to that as, they're going to get more and more and more, and it will be taken from you. So do what you can to try and climb up the ladder. And I just help people the way that I think I can best. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week. Take care.